to episode 4 of season 2 of Red Talk. Alex has scurried off back to Melbourne to live, so it's going to be myself in the host chair for the time being, and hopefully we can still carry on without his magnificent services. On this week's show we're going to talk a bit about the first friendly against New England Revolution, a bit about the goalkeeping situation at the club with the new ones coming in. Also going to have some quickfire questions, as always, that ever popular segment, as well as talk a bit about Wesley Sneijder, will he or won't he come? And to start the show fully, we're going to start with a quiz question, Will.
Yeah, our quiz question for this week is surrounding our new signing, Phil Jones. And what we want to know this week is, how many goals has he scored for club and country?
So there you go, think about that, and we'll answer that at the end of the show. Now, of course, Edwin van der Sar's retirement at the end of the season means that there needs to be a new number one. David De Gea is, of course, being brought in, and a lot of people assuming he's going to walk straight into the first team lineup, but not necessarily so. Fergie's said to Anders Lindegaard that if he performs well on the tour, then he's got a chance of getting into the team, same as anybody. So it's an interesting situation. What do you think of Lindegaard's chances of taking that number one spot?
I think it's unlikely, but it's not impossible. I think De Gea's, we all know how good he is, and we all hope that he's going to be good. And if he lives up to how good he's been in La Liga, I think he's easily going to get that number one spot. But I think the competition is going to be much more fierce than it was, previously, because of course Van der Sar held that position so strongly.
Yeah, that's right. What are your thoughts, Will?
Yeah, I think I agree with Nick. I think that De Gea is obviously the one that we'd all like to see as number one, but if Fergie said that Lindegaard's going to get a bit of a chance, then he'll obviously get that opportunity on the tour and just has to take it, really. We saw that when Cusack came in last season, it was very difficult for him to get the number one jersey off Van der Sar, but he didn't really perform when he was given his chances. So I think that Lindegaard definitely has to take his opportunity.
I think also the price tag comes into it a bit, because we did pay, was it 18.3 million for him?
Something like that.
And you have to think, most people would have to be wanting him to become the number one. Otherwise, it's a huge waste of money, really. When you think how much would we buy Lindegaard for? 5 million, something around that mark.
Yeah.
So the price tag also comes into people's perception of what he's expected to do.
Yeah, that's right. It is difficult for the backup keeper to come in, once every couple of months and play and try to play well after not playing. Because at United, rather strangely, the second choice keeper tends not to play reserves games, so they're just completely out of action.
Do nothing, yeah.
Coming in totally cold, so it is quite difficult. De Gea, I think, he'll definitely start as the number one, and then depending on performances, obviously Lindegaard might come in, but it's good to have someone who seems, so far, I haven't seen a lot of him, of course, that seems to be a good solid backup, so nice to have those options. Now, what do you guys think about the lack of Premier League experience amongst our keepers? We've got the two we've been talking about, of course, and then Ben Amos as the third choice, three very young keepers, and also only a handful of Premier League appearances between them. Do you think that's going to be a problem?
Well, obviously it's going to weigh in their mind, and of course the physicality of the Premier League is well documented, and that's going to be an issue that they're obviously going to deal with, and it's been documented, to use the word again, in the press that De Gea is going to be on a weights regime, trying to bulk up, similar to what Chicharito went through, and we've seen players go through it in the past. Ronaldo, when he was at the club, he transformed really from a skinny little boy to a full-grown man. I think that the same thing is going to happen to De Gea.
Yeah, I think what Nick says is right. I think the lack of experience in the Premier League will certainly be a factor, but we also have to remember that De Gea has played 2 full seasons in Spain against arguably the two best players in the world, in Messi and Ronaldo. So I think he'll be used to the quality that's around, and hopefully we can see him perform.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting the lack of a mentor, though, as a keeper. Often in the past, Strelks has had like an experienced keeper as backup to help along the young players. I remember Raymond van der Haar was very good at that and went on to go into coaching. So that's an interesting point, that amongst the goalkeeping groups, they're all, Lindegaard's mid-20s, but not very experienced, and the rest of them either teenagers or in their early 20s. So the lack of a mentor might be a bit of an issue. Of course, we've got Eric Steele there who can obviously mentor them along the goalkeeper coach. But do you think that's going to be a factor?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, they're all young guys, and as long as they're kept in check, so to speak, by Eric Steele, and their development's monitored, it'll be fine. It is a bit worrying though when you think back to when Peter Schmeichel retired. We had a bit of a yo-yo situation at the club with all the keepers coming in and out, and the not the number necessarily, but the number one spot was swapped so many times that it's not something that we want to see happen again.
Our mate Mark Bosnich was in there as well. Yeah, one of our mates. Hello, if you're watching Bozza, mate.
Sure he is.
I think. Do you think we'll actually see Edwin come back and do that sort of role that you're talking about?
Well, he's taken an ambassador role for the club, I think, so he'll probably spend a lot of time away from the club.
He's having a year off as well from football. He said he wants to spend a bit of time with his family. Of course, his wife has been sick in the past. Is coming right now, which is good to see, but he just wants to spend a bit of time with them, I think. I think he will come back into coaching, though, he said. Whether that's with Ajax or United is another thing, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be great to see him come back eventually to the club, of course, to start coaching.
Hello, my name's Danny and you're watching Red Talk.
So the big transfer saga of this transfer window is, of course, Wesley Sneijder to United. Will he or won't he? Hopefully it doesn't drag on like the Gareth Barry saga, which seemed to go for about 5 years. Interesting, Fergie recently came out in the press and said that United not interested in him. There's nothing to all these reports, to which seemingly every journalist in the land said that they just don't believe Fergie and they think the deal's going to happen. What have you made of the whole saga, Will?
Well, I tend to agree with the journalists that have made that prediction. I think that Fergie doesn't want to make a big deal about the Schneider situation. I think, like Gary Neville said a couple of weeks ago, he said that he thinks United will sign someone and it'll be quite silently done. So I think that in Fergie coming out and saying that, he's trying to silence the interest and make people think that there's nothing actually happening, when a lot of sources have actually close to the deal have confirmed that it looks like it's going to happen. So I still think that it will happen, and I think that just by Fergie saying that, he's trying to divert the attention away from the deal.
I mean, the reality is these days there's a fair bit of the signings before they happen. It's pretty hard to go over to Italy or wherever you're buying the player from without somebody noticing and that you've gone over there and talking to officials and that sort of thing. So, it's bound to, I find it interesting that Fergie would come out and say that if he is going to sign him, because it just seems strange that he just lie about it. So I don't know. That's really confused me. Yeah,
it's an interesting contrast to Roberto Mancini, who recently came out and said that City are looking to sign Aguero, and Nasri just came out in the press and straight up stated it before they've even negotiated anything, which I thought was quite unprofessional, to be honest.
Yeah, you look at the reaction from Arsene Wenger.
Exactly, it doesn't help, does it?
No, it doesn't help. It's not going to help the situation. So I think by Fergie saying that, we're not going to sign Schneider, Inter will have a little bit more respect, and I think Inter genuinely want, they're looking to offload him now. I've read a number of different reports where they're saying that they're ready to sell him and that they're going to cash in on him while he's 27.
Yeah.
And that we're not going to get a good sell-on value if we do choose to sell him in the future. But so I think they're just cashing in on him, and they're both parties are ready to do a deal by the looks of things.
Now, one of the reasons why Inter are allegedly looking to move him on is their new coach coming in plays a 3-4-3 formation, which they don't think that Schneider really fits into. Now, if he came to United, where do you think he would be playing, and would he fit into our tactical system?
Well, I've read some of your thoughts on this particular topic on Twitter about him potentially playing sort of at the back or in front of the back four in a deeper sort of role.
Or not super deep, but
No. But he's more like sort of what Scholes did towards the end
Yeah.
of his career. Just sort of getting the ball off the back four and looking to create from there. And I think that the way that Sneijder plays and his ability, I think that he'll fit into our system quite well and just makes a perfect replacement for Paul Scholes, really.
yeah, well, probably his natural position is the position that Rooney played towards the back end of the last season, in behind the striker. Obviously, you wouldn't be wanting to bring in another 30-odd million pound player. Obviously, Rooney cost a similar-ish amount. Have two such expensive players competing for the same position. So, obviously, he's been brought in as Scholes' replacement, and he has played there in the past. For the Dutch national team. Of course, Bert van Marwijk came out in the press and said that he wants him to move to United. He thinks it would be a step up in his career, and he thinks that United play a similar position to the Dutch national team and that it would help him out there. And he's also played there for Ajax at the start of his career and for Real Madrid when he was there, when he was actually in the team and when they won the title. So I think he has got a history of playing that deeper type of role. Now, one of the main issues with Sneijder is the different tax rates in England and Italy. In England, you get taxed 50%, in Italy 43%. So he's going to have to be on a much higher wage in England to be on the same amount of money, take-home money, than he would be in Italy. So that's where the problems seem to lie, mainly with the wages.
Yeah, and it seems like the numbers they're talking about are quite ridiculous. I mean, I know Rooney's on 200 plus thousand per week, and geez, that's a ridiculous number anyway. But I don't know how to go down if Sneijder were to come and be the top earner at the club straight away. I think it wouldn't be something I'd want to risk as being Sir Alex, I suppose.
Do you think it's something that we should be sort of doing as well? Like other clubs have done this in the past. They've brought in big players and paid them big wages, and it's put certain people's noses out of joint.
Yeah, exactly.
And upset the rhythm of the team.
Yeah, that's definitely the number one thing they need to avoid. That you can't have somebody coming in and disrupting what's already a successful team. So you got to hope that obviously your new signings you want to add to the team and not do it any harm.
Yeah, you obviously don't know how the players are going to react. I think it would probably be a good idea if I don't know if this is any sort of standard practice, but if Fergie got maybe a few senior players together and had a discussion with them about the deal. I know probably the players don't usually have any sort of input towards that kind of thing, but with an issue like that, with a player coming in and earning more than anyone else, just walking straight into the side, maybe it's something that he should consider to make sure that that's not an issue.
Yeah, I know that Rooney's in the past has said when he was going through his contract negotiations, he said that the club he didn't find them as ambitious with the signings that they were making. So obviously you can't have one and not the other. I mean, you have great players and pay them what they deserve, or accept that you're probably not going to be the highest paid player at the club and continue on being, well, it's still a good side, but you're not going to have world-class names coming in on a regular basis. So, but just something to think about, I think.
Basically, it's an association I've set up because I'm a bit sick of the lack of active support, particularly in Melbourne, but from what I've gathered from interstate supporters I should say, it's sort of common all across Australia. So this association is hopefully the first step in sort of rectifying that, setting up a network for Australian Manchester United supporters, get people comfortable with the idea of going out to watch games, and just get Australian United supporters interacting with one another. Well, hopefully the goal is to get people going to pubs to watch games with other United supporters. I know that's not always realistic with the kick-off times, but that's what we hope to achieve anyway. If you ever go to Manchester, the one thing that will strike you is the sort of the community, the Manchester United community there. And on a match day, everyone knows each other. Everyone's at the pub before, drinking, singing, and I'd like to try and capture a bit of that here. I know it's harder, but that's the long-term goal. Probably just the fact that it consigns you to watching games at home. That's not how you're meant to watch Manchester United. Nothing worse than sitting on your couch at like 1 o'clock in the morning. It's cold and you're lonely. You want to drink, but you know that's probably the worst part. That fact that you're consigned to watching at home. Pretty simple, really. You can get on Twitter and follow us at OZMUFCSA, or you can like us on Facebook. But the easiest way would be to log onto our website and get all our details off there. www.ozmufc.com. We've got a lot of fan opinion. I run interviews with fans, Aussie fans. I like to do a feature called Oz Tweets, where I ask our Twitter followers and our Facebook fans a question and take their responses and put them up on the site. And you'll also get details of upcoming meetups all throughout Australia and that sort of info too.
Jeez, everyone's on Twitter these days, aren't they? Bunch of twits, I reckon.
Bunch of twits. They're very fine individuals. Did you not know the show's on Twitter?
What? Red Talk?
Yeah, you just head to look at Red Talk 1 and you'll see everything. It's got, as soon as something goes on our Facebook page, straight onto Twitter. So if you've got push notifications, all that thing, you'll find out straight away when we've got new stories, new episodes up, that kind of thing. So you should get onto it, mate.
Yeah, well, I suppose don't hesitate to send us a tweet.
It's a tweet, you tweet. Yeah, look us up at Red Talk 1.
Well, football has started again. The pre-season tour in the US underway. 4-1 win over New England Revolution. Goals coming from Owen Makeda with a double, and Park, a lovely goal, finished up by the young Korean. What did you make of the performance, Nick?
It was pretty typical for the first game for the season, first pre-season. Started off slow. Some of the play towards the start of the game was a bit sloppy, and you could tell that the players weren't quite as sharp and as fit as they will be later on in the season. But you know, it was a good result, and it was really pleasing for me to see Makeda come back into form, and we'll come back to the club and see him wearing the kit, the new kit, which I must say I like a lot, and scoring 2 goals, which was pleasing.
Yeah, I think that was one of the positives I took out of it. I mean, I know it's only one game, but he was somebody that maybe I didn't think was going to have an impact this season, but he's come out and said he's matured after his loan spell and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, there's a lot of good press coming out about him, so who knows, he could be a surprise packet this season. And
there's something that you have to remember when you're talking about his loan spell. He was playing at a side that has been relegated from Serie A, and he's not getting the the service that he would be getting when he's at United. So it just shows that when he's got the right service, he's a sharp and he's a very good striker.
Yeah, exactly. And he's one of those strikers that doesn't really get involved in the game apart from finishing off moves. So it's hard for him when he's at a side where it's really struggling and he's not getting the service to actually impress and get into the game, because he's really purely a finisher. Of course, this game also saw the first appearance of Ashley Young in a United shirt. What did you make of his performance?
Well, I was quite happy. I think he's, I was read as well. Sir Alex said he was quite, pleased to see him crossing the ball, and he said, that's something that maybe the strikers weren't as used to. And so, I mean, it just adds probably a bit of unpredictability. Not that our attack was predictable before, but it's another dimension that we got, and, could come in handy.
He's an exciting player, isn't he? He runs at players, and it's always good to see. And his delivery, especially into the box, is pretty superb.
And he tends to try and get early crosses in a lot more than our other wingers who try to take people on and get to the byline before they cross it in. So I think that's what Fergie was on about.
It's a more direct style of play, because often we end up coming down and then coming out round the back and trying to get a route into the box from the front of the box rather than the wing.
Now the other 2 goals, Michael Owen and Park Ji-sung. Lovely goal from Park, I thought. Great team move. Good to see Gabby get involved with about 25 step overs and then cut it back to Park. Nice little 1-2 with Giggs in a lovely finish. Yeah, definitely the best goal of the game, I thought.
Michael Owen on the field and on the score sheet as well.
Yeah, new deal, of course, this season, and finished it off with a nice little trademark finish.
I'm Andy, and you're watching Red Talk.
Okay, time once again for the quickfire questions round. We're going to mix it up a little bit this week and have Nick there. He's perched behind the camera. He's going to fire the questions at myself and Males and Will. So over to you, Nick.
First question, will Sneijder move to Old Trafford this season?
I reckon it's looking likely.
I don't think so.
Yeah, he will.
Will Makeda score a hat-trick against Liverpool?
No.
I'm afraid not. It'll be Berbatov again.
Yes, he will.
Appreciate your enthusiasm, Will. Will De Gea keep the number 1 shirt all year?
I think so.
I think he may spend a couple of games out of the side at one point.
I think he will. Yeah.
Will Cleverley and Welbeck break into the side this year?
I don't think both.
No, neither.
I think Cleverley will. If Sneijder doesn't sign, we'll see more of him. So, but I think Sneijder will sign.
Will Ryan Giggs finally hang up the boots at the end of the season?
I reckon I think it's getting that way.
Yeah, I think he will.
I can't answer that question because he just seems to keep playing and playing.
Well, it's a no then, isn't it?
No then.
So that's just about it for episode 4 of season 2. But the only thing left is now to reveal the answer to the quiz question. Will, the question was?
And the question was, how many goals did new signing Phil Jones, how many goals has he scored for club and country?
And Males, the answer is?
Big 0 goals, so...
Big duck's egg for Big Phil.
So, not buying for his scoring talents, obviously.
No, definitely not.
I've been out all night and I'm feeling down. I've been out all night and I'm kicking around.
Quick questions.
Yep.
Take 1.
Oh my god.
Trying to be...
That would look so funny on the camera. Quick fire question, the camera's like...